Are you ready for this now? KMSU.
Hey, what's up?
Hello, is this Danny?
That's it.
How you doing, man? This is Dustin.
Hey, man, how are you?
Good. I'm here with my co-host, Ton.
Hey, Danny, how you doing?
What's happening, guys?
Not much. We're hanging out, waiting to do super sweet radio interviews with you.
All right, fair enough.
So what, Danny Tamberelli, am I saying that correctly?
Oh, yeah, you got it.
Tamberelli, are you in the mafia or something? Do you live in New York currently?
I'm born and raised in Jersey. I got no comment on that.
See,
There you go.
Dusty, it's what I was telling you. All right, we'll keep it clean then. That's...
Well, we'll start it off and ask you how you got started in acting.
I've been doing that since I was 6 years old. Oh, excuse me. Since I was 6. I did an audition for Nickelodeon when I was like 7 for The Adventures of Pete and Pete, and pretty much I worked with them ever since until I went to college.
That's quite a long time. So then...
12 years, yeah, a very long time.
How old were you, and how did you get into the Mighty Ducks? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, actually, I got booked to do this, like, play in New York. It was a place called Circle in the Square. It's just, like, sort of famous theater or whatever. And it was a play with Nathan Lane and George C. Scott, the dude who played Patton in that movie Patton, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like 2 or 3 days before they were going to start, and they straight fired me. So I guess they said I couldn't project enough, and I couldn't like push my voice enough in the room so people could hear me. And then I got like an audition for the Mighty Ducks like 2 days later, and then got that, and then was in Minneapolis from December of '91. I lived there until April of '92.
Wow. So we were like neighbors in the early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
We were neighbors.
Definitely. I was at, we were actually, the coolest thing that I remember about that was ice skating at where the North Stars played when they beat the Penguins, and that was like the '92 Stanley Cup or whatever. And the actual ice still had all like that Stanley Cup stuff on it.
Awesome.
We were like ice skating on it and stuff.
That's cool.
And then you got The Adventures of Pete and Pete soon after that, you said?
Well, that was actually before. Pete and Pete was like 89.
Oh, okay.
That was 2 years prior. But it wasn't like an actual series until, I guess, 93, 94, 95. They made it like actual like half-hour episodes.
Right, they just had like those little shorts that they played.
Yeah, they were like those little vignettes, exactly, like right in between commercials and stuff.
Okay.
Wow.
What was it like on the set of Pete and Pete? Was it just like you had all those weird guest stars that showed up all the time? Was it just like weird being on set, or was it kind of typical?
No, it's sort of how I grew up, so I didn't really like think much of it. It was just kind of a cool thing. Yeah, I mean, Iggy Pop and David Johansen from the New York Dolls, and Steve Buscemi was on the show, and a ton of cool people. The thing about that was everyone that seemed to like, treat me like an adult was kind of a cool thing,
And I suppose since you were so young, you were just like, yeah, whatever, some other guy. Like, hey, what's up, whatever.
Yeah, well, like, so Marshall Crenshaw and Sid Straw were like in that band, the Blowholes. It was like that first season, the Hard Days Pete episode or whatever. And we had to like go in there and like go into a studio and like record like us singing and like doing all that stuff. And Marshall Crenshaw is like, a super accredited singer-songwriter, like just was on tour with one of the dudes from MC5, Wayne Kramer. Like, cool dude, like, definitely been playing music for a while. We were in the studio, and he picked up a guitar, and he was messing around with it. And I, like, looked at him, and I was like, oh, that's cool, man. You play guitar? That's cool. And my dad was in the actual studio while we were doing it. And, like, afterwards, he was like, I can't believe you asked Marshall Crenshaw if he played guitar. Like, my dad was, like, mortified that I didn't know who Marshall Crenshaw was,
That's funny.
When you were making that show, did you realize that it was kind of an inventive, unique show? Or did you kind of only realize that later on as an adult?
I guess as an adult, I sort of realized it more. I mean, like, I knew it was cool, and it was like, I was never for any other reason than I just, it was just kind of weird. Like, I always felt it was weird to, like, watch myself on TV, but, like, Pete and Pete was a show that I definitely watched because I liked it in general, And, like, if I hadn't been on the show or anything, I would have watched it regardless. And it was one of the only shows that I really sat there and, like, when they came on the air, like, I wanted to watch because, as a kid, you're cool. You're like doing these shows and stuff. You're really kind of like, oh, well, you shoot, like, the last scene first and everything else. You really don't know how it's going to turn out, but there's always, like, a lot of fish where, you just, like, wow, I want to know what's going to happen, So,
yeah.
It's cool. It's definitely a cool thing.
Do you know of what the other guys are up to in the cast? Or you still keep in touch with them? Or?
Oh, yeah. Well, Mike, Big Pete and I both live in New York. He lives in Brooklyn. I live in Manhattan. And we hang out once in a while. We don't really, go to bars and stuff because people get a little weird. But, I play in a band called Jounce, and we tour a lot. And when we go to New York, he'll come out and, help support the band and stuff because we all sort of got into music together in the same way. And I'm the oldest in my own, actual family. So, when you're growing up and you're, 7, and we do that show, I worked with Mike from 7 to, 14 years old. That's, those are, prime time years. And he's 4.5 years older than me. So he was sort of like a surrogate older brother, in regards to, giving me, mixtapes and music and, advice. I remember when I grew up in New Jersey right outside of Manhattan, but the first time I went into New York to, hang out in somebody's apartment was his apartment, So we're still very close.
Okay. What about, who are some of the other guys on that show, like Pit Stain and
Yeah.
Artie?
I haven't seen a lot of those dudes. Actually, Artie, Toby Huss, I saw recently. Jounce was out in L.A. We did a little West Coast run. And so when we were in L.A., he actually came with Chris Viscardi, who's one of the co-creators of P&P, and a couple of dudes from All That. That was another show on Nickelodeon that I did that was shot out there because I actually lived in L.A. for 3 years doing that show.
It seems like after Pete and Pete, you sort of became the poster boy for Nickelodeon. You kind of showed up on a lot of different things.
Definitely, yeah, for a little while. Went right from that to that show Figure It Out, and then right to All That. We did another, that 100 Beats for Eddie McDowd was another Nickelodeon thing.
Was that just...
It's cool, man. The whole experience was great. Nickelodeon's a great company, and they never ever did me wrong, and I'm not, a lot of people who maybe grew up doing child acting stuff are ashamed, or not ashamed, but they're like, well, I don't really like doing that. Nickelodeon was always cool, and all the people that I worked for were always really cool. So I never really had any sort of weird anything, So it was cool, just go from every different thing. And basically, the reason I stopped doing stuff was because I went to public school my whole life. So I was a senior doing the last season of All That, and that finished in February. So I got to go back for the last 2 semesters of my senior year of high school, and everyone's going to college. So, I applied to 2 schools, NYU, and they denied me, and I applied to Hampshire College in Amherst, Massachusetts, and they accepted me early decision, so I went there, and I just decided that I was going to leave LA and stop working and just be a normal kid and, do what everybody else does.
Was that a pretty strange departure, or even going back to high school or anything? Was that weird, or?
No, because I've been working on that, on Pete and Pete and stuff from the time I was 7. I never ever went to professional children's school or I was tutored on the set, but I went to public school my whole life. So these people I'd known since 5th grade. So by senior year, it was just more of what everyone else is thinking about senior year. Like, everybody's leaving, and you want to hang out, and everybody wants to party, and, like, it's just like normal stuff. The people I've been going to school with forever, which is cool too because they're all still like very close friends. I mean, everybody that I pretty much grew up with, I'm still like good friends with.
So you weren't ousted as like the celebrity kid?
No, not at all. Maybe like the first year in 5th grade when I moved to the town that I grew up in. After that, I was sort of like the new chick because Pete and Pete had been on. I kind of got like, whatever people were. And, 5th and 6th grade, what are kids going to do? You're the new kid, like, they're going to make fun of you and stuff. But by 6th grade, I had it all situated. It was all good. Yeah, I brought a lot of them onto the show. Like, a lot of the little kids who are in P&D the last 2 seasons as, like, just extras and stuff were kids from my school. I would, I got, like, my whole school, like, come in and be extras on the show a couple times.
I suppose that was easy, like somebody's giving you a hard time, and then you're just like, whatever, dude, you want to be on TV? And they're instantly like...
No, I didn't even go like that, because that was serious. When people were making fun of you in 5th grade and you were trying to fit in, you didn't want to play around. You were mad.
Sure.
Just
so then you...
inline hockey games didn't score the most goals. We'll settle that situation.
And then you ask the dude's friend to be on TV, and then you shut him up right there, right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, no, dude's really cool. He asked me to be on TV.
That's funny.